Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to Charger Chats. I'm Michelle Farmer. I'm the Assistant Director in the Alumni Office. Today's chat is with UH alum Thomas Sargent. Thomas is a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner in Dallas, Texas. He received degrees from both UAH and UAB, and he's been serving in this field for 7 years. He'll be sharing helpful tips and advice on how to cope and take care of our mental health during this pandemic. So thank you, Thomas, for joining us. Just to let you know, we'll let Thomas speak first, and then we'll allow time at the end for Q&A. If you do have a question, you can use the chat function of Zoom and submit your questions there, and we'll get to as many questions as we can at the end. So thanks again, Thomas, for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. I really want to say that I appreciate you guys for having me. I feel like there are so many mental health professionals that do this public speaking thing often. So I definitely appreciate you guys for giving me a chance. I think we're all dealing with some of the same issues or same things during this time. COVID-19 has kind of hijacked our year, so to speak. And I think we're all trying to find ways to cope and persevere during this time. And I think the main thing that we're going to talk about is self-care and how self-care is so important as far as coping with any stressful event, but particularly so important now that we're in a pandemic. And many of us have been taken out of our comfort zones. Things aren't normal anymore. And so that's why self-care is so important, because it brings some normalcy into this abnormal experience we're in right now. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. Here we go. All right. I see it, so I think y'all can see it too. But yes, so welcome to Charger Chat. So we're going to be talking about coping with COVID-19. And again, we're talking about self-care throughout this whole presentation. We'll be talking about self-care and how we can care for ourselves and maintain some sense of normalcy in this tough time. All right. So first, taking care of our body is so important. Eating healthy, well-balanced meals. And when I say that, I mean non-processed foods. So we want more whole foods, vegetables, fruits, that type of thing. And those foods will give us a boost in our immune system. So not only does taking care of our mental health during COVID, help us stay sane, but it also acts as another barrier for our immune system. So eating those well-balanced meals is really important. And limiting caffeine is also important, because a little known fact is, and maybe people do know this, but caffeine can contribute to a lot of anxiety. And so you want to limit your caffeine intake to reduce anxiety as much as possible. I know some of us can't, go to work without caffeine, but we want to stick to 1 or 2 cups in the morning if you can tolerate that. And I think we all know some type of physical activity is important during this time. And I know gyms are closed, but outside is open as long as we practice social distancing still. I've been running on trails and just trying to soak in some of that sunlight. I went for a run today and it was just what I needed, even though it was a little bit too hot for me. But physical activity is also a immune system booster, and it acts as a stress reliever. It reduces anxiety and improves mood. This is something that's been proven in many, many studies. Um, and I think we all know that we need more sleep during this time, and sticking to your bedtime routine, limiting screen time right before bed. I think a lot of people have struggled with maintaining a healthy sleep cycle because their routine has been thrown off by working from home, or their business hours have adjusted because of COVID, but still sticking to a daily bedtime routine and getting plenty of sleep will help with coping and maintaining some sense of normalcy. Um, we also need to avoid self-medicating. I've seen a lot of people joke about, happy hour has moved up a few hours, and it's 5 o'clock somewhere. But we need to kind of be aware of our, alcohol intake, and definitely not lean on any illicit drugs, because what those tend to do, they tend to numb you. And we don't want to feel overwhelmed in this time, but we also don't want to feel numb. There's a balance that we need to find in this time. So just kind of beware of using alcohol and drugs as a means of coping, because it kind of dismisses some of the healthy coping skills that I know you used in the past. Also, taking care of our mind is so important during this time. Limiting how much COVID related news we take in on a daily basis is so important, because unfortunately, when we turn on the news these days, that's all we see. So, setting limits on when you're going to watch the news, maybe say, I'm just going to watch the 6 o'clock news. I don't know what time the news comes on because I don't watch it. But even on social media, that's all we see. So protecting your peace of mind is really important. And if watching news on a daily basis about COVID-19, and there's so many negative things going on right now that we need to do our part in stepping away from that and taking care of ourselves, and finding time to relax away from all of the stressful news that we're seeing. And that includes social media, that includes the newspaper, just limiting that amount of time you spend on COVID related news. And we talked about this a little bit earlier about maintaining a daily routine, but that also includes getting up in the morning, bathing, consistent times for meals, a set work schedule or study schedule if you're still in school. And also, keeping um, priorities as far as your exercise routine or things you enjoy doing. You need to make sure you're still allowing yourself time for the things that you enjoy. Because this is your chance to maintain some type of sense of control, because there's so much going on that we can't control. So our daily routine is one thing we can control, and just making sure you're fitting things in that you need to do or you need for your mental health. And something I like to do is, kind of escape from, the COVID related news. And I watch, fictional TV, something lighthearted. Comedy is, my favorite. Listening to uplifting music, reading something that's maybe fictional and not pandemic related could definitely help. And something, probably my favorite part of self care is, prayer and meditation. Um, they give you a chance to de stress and recharge after a long day of, working for some of us, or watching all the COVID related news for some. We need to allow ourselves, time to de stress and unwind. And prayer and meditation could be very important aspects of your self care. And something that was misunderstood when we first entered this period of quarantine was that social distancing somewhat means that you can't connect with others. You know, social distancing doesn't mean social isolation. So a lot of us have more free time than we've ever had. So this is the best time to, you know, build friendships, build relationships, and strengthen them by connecting with them in some way. We're still practicing social distancing, but we're, you know, making sure we FaceTime people. I'm not a FaceTime guy, but I have been FaceTiming my friends and my family. We've had multiple Zoom calls, and it kind of, you know, brings some normalcy to our lives. I'm from Alabama, so I would have to be on the Zoom call anyway. But since they aren't gathering in big groups like they usually do, we do a Zoom call, and it just feels like everybody's in that living room talking, joking, making fun of each other, you know, just having a good time. So you can do that virtual. We're so, you know, blessed to have all these virtual tools at our fingertips, and we have to make use of them. And also, you know, taking time to find purpose. And for a lot of people, they want a purpose in helping others. And that can be definitely helpful during this time. There are a lot of elderly people who aren't able to get up and get out. So helping them maybe order their groceries online, or if you feel comfortable actually going to the grocery store for them, because you know they're at a higher risk of suffering complications from COVID, and they're more vulnerable. So helping them out and reaching out to the people who are still maintaining strict quarantining and social distancing, just finding purpose is so important in our daily lives, period. And especially now that we're in a pandemic and we're all, you know, stressed, for a lack of a better word. And, you know, throughout this time, we do have time to reflect. We do have time to gain some type of emotionally awareness. And through that, we have to be vulnerable enough and strong enough to reach out for help when we need it. And so if you're feeling hopeless, if you're feeling helpless, if you're feeling worthless, or if you're feeling like, you know, there's no point in going forward or moving forward, that's the time where you have to reach out for help. And that first step may be contacting someone you trust, someone you love, a friend, a family member, a minister, and or some type of spiritual leader that you have in your life and you feel comfortable sharing some of this emotional baggage with. I'm sure they, you know, be happy to kind of help you process this. And we're all in this together. And so I think building some sense of community is very important. And if you talk to that person and it doesn't make you feel better, it doesn't relieve the stress or the overwhelming feeling of sadness or anxiety that you're experiencing, then it may be time to seek professional help, and that's okay. There are many, many trained professionals who are here to help you through this process, through this transitional period of, I don't know what this is. I don't think any of us really know what this is and how long it's going to be around, and how long we're going to have to change our, you know, routines and what have you. But there are trained mental health professionals that would love to help you through this tough time. And we have to be okay with not being okay and reaching out for help if that's the case. And this is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And they have a texting feature, they have a calling feature, they even have an online feature that you can reach out if you just feel like you're at the end of the rope. And hopefully this won't be any of you guys' experience, but I want you to know that there is help there if you ever get to that point. Um, and I wanted to, make sure you were aware of some resources that are available. Um, Mental Health America has a great resource page of all things COVID related, how to deal with anxiety and stress during COVID, how to talk to your kids about COVID, financial resources, counseling resources. All of those are on that web page, and it's an extensive list. So if you need some resources, please go to that website. Also, Calm. Calm is an app, but they also have a website and a blog on the website that has deep breathing techniques and relaxation techniques that are free. Because some of us, I think, have tried out Calm, and we know that some of the aspects of it aren't free, but there are some free resources on that website. Also, the Bible app. If you are a person of faith, the Bible app has many, many devotionals about fear, about anxiety, and even some newer devotionals about COVID related issues. So that is a great resource to have. And the CDC has factual information about COVID, period. And then they have ways and tips for how to cope with stress during this time. So if you want some factual information, Mental Health America and the CDC have factual information on COVID and things you could do to, get through this time. And that's it for my little spiel. But like we said earlier, Michelle said earlier, I am here for any questions that y'all may have.
Thank you, Thomas. I really appreciate that. I thought that was really good information to share with all of us today. And yes, we are now going to open up to questions. So if you do have a question, just use the chat function of Zoom and you can submit it to the host. So I'll see it and I'll be able to read it out so that we can go through those and answer those questions. So here's the first question. How do you manage relationships with others who are sharing and expressing negativity about the pandemic?
I think you have to be honest with them and let them know that may not be ready to kind of talk about these negative aspects of COVID, and maybe redirecting the conversation to positive things that we can do during COVID. If they are not working right now, although that's may be troublesome financially, but there's time there to focus on positive things, productive things. There's time to improve on whatever skills you may want to work on. And so this is a time where people are, finding resources and different tools to improve their lives overall. So kind of refocusing the negativity that they're bringing about COVID and kind of focusing on more positive aspects. And if you're in the house with them, this is a time where you can have more family centered time and y'all can spend time together and
Right.
just strengthen those relationships.
That's a really good point.
Hello, I'm sorry, but I can't find a chat on my phone, so I'm going to ask my question live if that's okay.
Yes.
I was wondering, I'm still staying pretty isolated from people and places, and I have friends who are getting together and they just don't seem to, they're hugging, they're sitting close, they're not wearing masks. My family, who's 500 miles away, most of them are pretty respectful of that, but then they've got some that are not. So I'd like to help them too. Do you have suggestions, phrases for how you can explain to people, even when you're and walking anywhere where there are people? I run into, like even in the doctor's office, I run into people who are not taking precautions either. And I want to tell them, you know, please stay 6 feet away. And I do, I hold my hand up and do that. But if you've got
Hmm.
some advice, I would love to hear how you recommend handling this. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, no problem. Thank you for the question. I think it's important for us to speak up during this time, and let people know and give them the facts. The fact is that people are at risk, more risk, if they are less than 6 feet away from each other. And even that is not enough if you actually look at the data. And so we need to practice social distancing, especially, you know, in Dallas, our numbers have gone up since we've opened some of the or lessened some of the restrictions. So just being very matter of fact, I'm not comfortable with you being this close to me. Or if you can social distance yourself from them at the time, but kind of um, let the, I guess, front desk staff know that, hey, I'm still in line, but I'm practicing social distancing. That's a way that you can do it. But just being honest with them and letting them know I don't feel comfortable being in, you know, close proximity with you because of everything that's going on. And if they have a problem with that, then, you know, that's unfortunate. But you can't, unfortunately, we can't make people social distance. We can't make people not have, you know, gatherings. But just letting them know, or maybe sending them articles about what's going on. That may be a way that you can get through to them.
I think that's a good point. It's just always honesty is a good policy, and kindness while doing
Yeah,
so.
right.
Because I know this next question, it says not only are we dealing with COVID, but issues around race, religion, or race relations. How can we
Mhm.
help each other during these times? Obviously, we're going through a lot right now with both the medical field and then with the race relations issues. So,
Mhm.
what would you say for that?
I think communication is key during this time. These conversations have to be had, and we need to feel not only obligated to have these conversations, but be open to having these conversations and listening to the other side. I think something that's helped me is reaching out to my frat brothers and my friends, and us having conversations about how this makes us feel and how we're all, you know, frustrated and tired. And that gives us a sense of community and a sense of belonging to um, a greater purpose and a greater aspect of life. And we're all going through this together. That's the main thing. And so we need to communicate that. And I think, you know, as far as the race relations, a lot of us are scared to have those conversations. But I've been thankful to have, you know, my white friends reach out to me, and they simply ask me, what can I do, or I'm thinking about you in this time. And that means everything to me. So just communicating with people you trust, communicating with, you know, your coworkers if it comes up, and just having this open dialogue, I think, is a way that we're going to all, you know, get through this together.
That's good. Lot of conversations to be had.
Mhm.
So, okay, we do have a couple more questions, and if you guys do have any more questions, definitely use the chat function because we'll probably answer just 2 or 3 more and wrap up. Um, well, this is an easy question. What do you feel is a reasonable amount of time to exercise, and how often? So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So at least 30 minutes a day is what's recommended. And that's 3 to 5 days a week based on tolerability. And so today I ran for about an hour, but I think I could have done well with just the 30 minutes. I kind of overdid it. So you always want to, you know, exercise within your ability and not overdo it. Um, but definitely some physical activity on a daily basis.
Okay.
Helpful.
Good deal. Um, This one is about sleep. So, if you are having trouble sleeping, what do you know of any good solutions to smooth that out so I can sleep better at night?
Yeah, so the calming app and also the website has some relaxation techniques. But something that helps me is deep breathing when I'm trying to wind down and I'm getting in bed. Deep breathing is a helpful way to kind of clear your head. Focusing your breathing is kind of the basis of meditation. And so, one of my favorite things to do is kind of visualize my breaths kind of filling up my body. So I close my eyes and I visualize every breath I breathe, literally filling up my body from my toes to the top of my head. And that may sound weird, but it helps because you're literally kind of visualizing air filling you up like a balloon, so to speak, without popping. And then as you breathe out, visualizing that air flow out through your toes, and that was a weird way to say it, but yeah, deep breathing, counting. Those are all ways that people are able to kind of refocus their thoughts and calm their mind down at the end of the day. My wife likes kind of background noise, so she does
Yeah.
the waves.
Mm-hmm.
Our Google Assistant does the waves for her every night, and so that kind of helps her settle down.
That's good. Let's see. Okay, the next question is, um, okay, hopefully I'm going to read this correctly. Do you feel anxious when you step out? Probably when you go to the grocery store, where are more people and you hold things. I guess there's anxiety going out. How do you how do you help when you feel anxious about going out, especially to the grocery store? You're touching things. How do you deal with that? I guess is what this
Yeah,
question is trying to ask. I hope. I
right.
hope I got that right,
Yeah.
the person who asked that.
So
Oh,
yeah, usually I take all the precautions. So I wear my mask, of course. I have my hand sanitizer on standby. The only problem with gloves is, we have a tendency to touch, our belongings with those same gloves. So usually I just put everything in the basket, let them bag it up. I sanitize my hands after I've touched everything without touching my face. And if you need to sanitize your hands after you touch each object, I think that's appropriate right now. But just having hand sanitizer on standby and practicing your hygiene, good hygiene, is the only way we can kind of deal with that anxiety. Or, did I touch that? You have hand sanitizer on standby if you do feel anxious.
that's good. Yeah, and obviously you can always just put a little thing in your purse, or if you have a bag or your
Mhm.
pocket, so easy to carry around.
Right.
So
And I
okay.
think people are suggesting wiping down those groceries once you get home, before you,
Mhm.
put them in your cupboard or whatever. Just wiping those down with a
Mhm.
sanitizing wipe before you just put them away.
Right. Okay. Okay. The next question is, if you are a person who is enjoying the social distancing, but you know it will one day come to an end, what are some things you can do to prepare? How can you make sure you aren't isolating yourself too much?
Right. I think, for those of us who kind of enjoy alone time, I think, initially it was fun, or, it felt relaxing, but I think a few of us are going stir crazy. So just kind of slowly kind of reintroducing yourself to, to society, I guess. Maybe going to the park one day, and then maybe going to the grocery store another day, just slowly kind of reintroducing yourself, is a way to kind of avoid the continued isolation. But like I said earlier, reaching out to people on the phone,
Right.
video chatting, those are ways that you can, avoid feeling too isolated. You're still in your own home, but you're connecting via the devices and such. So that's another way too.
Yeah. Okay. And I believe the last question is about coffee. So you mentioned that caffeine can kind of contribute to, was it stress and anxiety sometimes?
Mhm.
And so this person was asking, are there any other alternative options, maybe something that's a little more natural that would not hinder um, your emotional state?
Right.
So,
Yeah. So caffeine is okay until you get above about 400 milligrams. So that's about 4.5 cups of coffee a day. And so you never want to really go above that. Some other things that are more natural, um, I think things with vitamin D in them. I know a lot of people take B12 supplements for energy. So those are also some things that can give you a little boost. Sunlight is something that I use often. The hospital I work in, you would think there are windows everywhere, but our offices that we work in have zero windows. So I go outside at least every 3 hours to get some sunlight because I work 12-hour shifts. So going a whole 12 hours without sun is not good for my energy at all. So I just go out and kind of recharge, so to speak. So that's another source too.
okay, that's a good point, especially now that we're entering summertime. So definitely take advantage
Mm,
of it while we can.
yeah.
All right. Okay. Just kidding. So this is the last question of the day. All right. So last question for you, Thomas, is how do you deal with a spouse who's having a hard time being home?
Yeah. I think that's something that I'm dealing with personally. My wife hasn't worked since the beginning of March, I think. So she's been home uh, almost every day for the last 3 months. Wow. 3 months at home. And so today I drug her out. I didn't literally drag her, but she came with me to the park and she walked while I ran. And so kind of introducing some of those things to their daily lives, kind of encouraging them to do something productive, do something they enjoy doing. I think there's an overwhelming sense of I have to be productive during this time. And I think more people need to focus more on enjoying themselves during this time and finding ways to find joy and find peace. So if you know that they enjoy X, Y, and Z, those are some things you can kind of encourage them to do. And also, if it's your spouse, planning, date night at home, planning picnics in the park or in your living room. We've done a picnic in our living room before. So just planning things like that to get their mind off of, I've been in this house all day. And if you are going to work and they're staying at home, I know I often bring home flowers to my wife when I get off of work. Just, letting her know that I'm thinking of her. And yeah, so it's the small things. Yeah.
I know my parents, they had a date, and what they did is they got the takeout and they brought their TV trays in the car. So at least they had a little date, even though it was in the car, but it was something that got
Yeah.
them out of the house. So
Right. Yeah.
it is the little things. Wow.
Mhm.
Well, thank you guys for all of your questions. Thank you, Thomas, for being with us today.
No
And
problem.
thank you
Thank
all
you for having me.
yeah, I think it's been a great session. And we did record it, so we are going to send the recording um, as well as a survey to everybody who registered. So if you receive that, please give us your feedback so we know what your thoughts were. And our next Charger Chat will be on Thursday, June 18th. So if you want to keep an eye on our Facebook and our Twitter pages, we'll post more information about the next one on those social media platforms. So, well, thanks again, Thomas. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we hope you have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thank you for having me. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Thomas. Bye-bye,
Thank you.
guys.